Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Little video. I hope it's light enough. It's starting to get dark a little bit. And this video is going to be explaining what I'm going to be doing this year because there's some news coming up. Of course, some of you guys have already read it on my Instagram. But I'm going to be part of Richard Advani's team for Formula Drift Pro Spec. Currently, Corvette is being built in California. Really cool car. Of course, my Corvette is also going to be built, but due to time constraints, I have a lot of projects here in the shop before I can leave for America. We're going to be first focusing on the FD car, Richard's car, and then when that's all done and tried and tested, my car will be built basically as a sister car to that, and the same as Eric's car, who's also a crew member for Richard's team. So super excited to go to FD, and especially nice because there's a lot of guys that I know driving out there. Of course, my friends from Drift Week, a lot of Drift Week guys like Rudy Hansen, but also Trenton from Y-Plate. Lots of other guys like Andy Hately, my friend from California, who's running our parts on the car as well. So super stoked to do such an adventure. Of course, it's going to be a really busy year because there's going to be a lot of traveling for me. Of course, besides the FD calendar, we're also going to be doing Drift Week, of course. So Drift Week is going to be happening on the East Coast this time. And we're going to start at New Jersey at Englishtown, which is great because, as you guys know, I've drifted there as the final leg of my last Drift Week visit. Super happy about that. So we're going to be doing Drift Week, but before Drift Week, we're going to be driving all the way from California to New York. Brian and me, which is of course a really cool adventure. Really stoked for that, and we're going to be doing a lot of things along the way, visiting friends, visiting tracks before we're at Drift Week. So that's a really cool adventure, and the M3 currently is in California, and after Drift Week it's going to stay on the East Coast, and I'm going to fly back to California to start testing the FD Corvette, and going to go to Orlando, which is the first round of FD Pro Spec. So that's basically the calendar it looks like right now. Really happy with that. My Corvette is obviously not going to be used for FD Pro Spec this year. We're going to be doing all kinds of cool events, maybe something like clutch kickers, all kinds of other one-off like Club Loose. It's of course super nice, but it requires the car to go to the East Coast, same as for clutch kickers. Texas has a couple of really cool events that I could do with that car, and of course things like Sonoma, Winter Jam, all the other things that are happening in Sonoma, some stuff that's going on in California. There's of course a lot of drifting in California, so that's going to be super cool, and I'm really excited for that. Corvette is such an incredibly good car. It's such an eye-opener. When I drove Richard's car at Willow Springs, I was blown away with how good that car was. Of course, we have the angle kit coming out for it, which we've been developing in America with 4 different Corvettes, and that's one of those kits. Like sometimes it just all comes together, and you drive it for the first time, and you're like, man, this is already, the prototype kit is already so good, and it's already so natural to drive and really responsive. Lots of angle, lots of auto center, lots of grip, lots of confidence, and feels really solid. So I think that kit's going to be miles ahead of everything else that's on the market for that car, which in my opinion it already is as a prototype, not to mention the production version. So really excited for that. Of course, it's going to be on the car in FD, and it's also going to be on my car. Of course, we have Feel on board as well. Really happy that there's a lot of connections being made by the team, a lot of partners, a lot of sponsorship. Really happy with that. It's a really good program. So that's really important for me because it's gonna take up a lot of my time. So I really want to be part of a really solid program. Richard's doing a great job on that. Eric, who's going to be the crew chief, is going to be working a lot on the car, on the events. I'm going to be more of a manager, more of the broad strokes and strategy, and more the setup of the car. So suspension settings and all these kinds of things. So I think there's a really good vibe in the team. I think there's a lot of potential there. Like Richard is a guy that takes it really seriously. If you consider that he's only been drifting for less than 2 years, the progress that he's made, and if you look at the Sonoma event, it was like such a dominance. He was driving so well, so consistently. We found out later that the motor was a little bit hurt, so we had some overheating issues at Sonoma, and turned out that the motor wasn't running as it should. It's probably doing around 500 horsepower, and we were facing up against guys like Rudy Hansen with a supercharged car, a lot of really fast cars, guys that were already in pro spec, and Richard really dominated the Sonoma shootout for the FD license. So that gives me a lot of confidence, and that for me it's super important when I'm part of a team that everybody takes it really seriously, and otherwise it's going to be a lot of sleepless nights, going to be a lot of traveling, and it's just a lot of effort. It's definitely not a 9-to-5 thing. If I just take a look at all the group chats and things that we're in right now, putting the car together and the strategy that we're going to be bringing to FD, it's really is very labor intensive, and for me to put that kind of effort and that kind of commitment in a team, I would only ever do that if everybody else was 100%. And I really think that Richard is 100% on this. It's like his dream. He's worked really hard for it. He's also a guy that's very sponsor friendly. I think he's a very credible guy. Also really important for us. He's done a great job on the development of working with us on developing the locket for the Corvette. So so for me it's really nice to get the chance to participate in FD on this level. And in the future I want to focus more on driving, of course. God knows what's all possible, but right now we're gonna be 100% committed to doing a good job in that team, and of course building my network more in America, and of course having a lot of fun as well, because that's basically what we really shouldn't forget. And of course super excited to do Drift Week. Really happy with the M3, that car. It's been such an amazing journey and such a great idea to do Drift Week. It was I can't be more happy about that. It was one of the best decisions in my life, was to participate in Drift Week, because the friendships in a little over a year. So it's about a year and almost 4 months ago that I did the first Drift Week. And if I take a look at how everything came together after that, and all the friends and opportunity I had from that, America is really a lot better than Europe in that perspective, because there's so much more driving going on. The accessibility of the tracks and the cost of the tracks and the cost of fuel and all that stuff, it's so much lower than Europe, and there's way less regulation, so you could road drive your car. There's always people responding to those videos, always people responding to the interviews that I did with Aaron, and say yeah, but I live in this and that part of Europe and I street drive the car, but it's less than 1%, maybe 1 in 1,000 people still drives his car to a dry drifting event. And if you have the events on the wet that we have a lot in the Netherlands and Germany, and Belgium because there's tire noise restrictions. Of course, you can just take a standard like E46 M3 or S chassis and drive it on the road. But in America, a lot of guys road drive their car to dry drifting events. And Americans will be like, what do you mean dry drifting event? Drifting is always dry. Yeah, in America, it's always dry. In Europe, there's a lot of events that are artificially wet. So there's like some kind of truck or agricultural vehicle with a big tank of water that's spraying the track from time to time, because there's so much problems here with noise complaints. It's way more densely populated over here, way more people on the same spot. So the sound is going to be is one person complaining. If there's 10,000 people living somewhere, one of them complains about noise like once a month, then you get all kinds of restrictions. So that's the nice thing about America. It's so easy to drift there, and like if you just take the example of my last drift week, I drifted more after drift week than during drift week, which is crazy. And it's so nice. Like I was invited by Audi to do the field drifting day on Willow Springs, and I was invited to go to Vegas. So many extremely friendly and cool invitations from people, and they're like, hey, you can crash at my place, you can use my shop, you can use my tire machine, and just come over. And I just drove the M3 everywhere. Sonoma, of course, almost forgot about that. Farouk kindly inviting Brian and me to come drive there, and it's so amazing. And in Europe, it's just not possible. I drifted, like at one point I was, I think I did Vegas and Sonoma and the field drift day in less than 8 days, which is crazy if you think about it. And this is all after drift week. So there's basically it's the field was, so it's 4 days of drifting in under 10 days. So you're drifting 40% of the time that you're there, which is of course amazing. And in Europe, that's just not possible nowhere in Europe. So for me, that's really important. And also, of course, for Wisefab and my other sponsors, it's of course also nice that we're able to drive a lot and develop a lot. And we can basically compact a lot of testing into 1 month. Of course, the cost is also a lot lower, like Willow Springs, way cheaper than any racetrack out here in Europe. Amazing track, different surfaces. You can go to Walt James Stadium, you can go to Balcony, you can go to Horse Thief Mile. It's completely different tracks. They're all right next to each other. We drove all the drift week cars there, and my car is of course very mellow, but like Fielding's car, Brendan Wickney's car with shooting flames and all kinds of really wild cars. Nobody was stopped, not even in California. Nobody gets stopped by the police. Cars with stickers and body kits and all that stuff. I was really surprised by that. I kind of expected a little bit of problems on this drift week with police and stuff. Nothing. So for me, that's really nice, and that's a really big plus for America. So the positivity, the vibe, and the energy, and it's also carried on by sponsorships. Like it's very compared to sponsorship deals in Europe. Like it's almost in America, it's almost like you're playing the same game on easy mode. So of course, a lot more turnover, a lot more sales in drifting and racing and off-road happening in America. So there's a lot more companies making money, and there's a lot more let's say medium-sized businesses that produce themselves. And for me, that's super important. That stuff isn't made offshore, it's made in America. And those companies are they're just really fitting to our program. They're just really in the same mindset as me. If I talk to the owners or representatives of those companies, it really clicks. Like we really have the same mindset, and that's of course super important in these programs. I'm super happy for the support that I had for Drift Week, and of course we're seeing the same thing happening now with the Prospect program. A lot of really great brands on board, and we'll of course fill you guys in on all those brands. But for now, I can say the brands we have on board right now, I'm super happy with them. For me, it's really important that the product always comes first, not the sponsoring. So I would rather pay full price for a really good product than be sponsored with a bad product, because it's, like I said before, it's a mission to the moon. You're taking that car from California to St. Louis or to Orlando or New Jersey, so you're very far from home. You're putting a lot of effort. Like I'm flying from one side of the world to the other side of the world to be part of a Formula Drift team. So we want to have the best of the best on that car. So if you see companies being on board with us, or being on board with my Drift Week program, being on board with the FD program, on board with my Corvette build, that says that it's a really good product that I really wanted, and I wouldn't even approach a company that I'm not 100%. Again, of course, as companies that don't do any sponsoring, or that we don't have any deals with, I'll just pay full price for it, just to be 100% sure that we get really good stuff on the car. And yeah, so again, super excited, guys. Of course, I'm going to make videos and stuff. I'm going to be investing in multimedia equipment a little bit. We're going to have media guys with us, of course, in the Prospect team, so I won't be doing that. I'll just do a little vlog behind the scenes, and of course the stories on Instagram and stuff. So super excited. The downside is I have to work really hard the next weeks, because I need to get a little bit ahead before I go to America. We of course have the E46 project, like with the rear mount radiator. We're working on the NASCAR S14, we're working on the Supra LS, and a couple other big products that I really want to be as close to completion as possible before I leave, like the Corvette or the Supra, and well, you can tell what's on my mind, but the Supra and the E46 of course need to be finished before I leave. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. I want to spend a little bit of time before we leave the Drift Week in California prepping the M3 and working on the Prospect Corvette, getting all that stuff done. And I really can't wait to show you guys that final product. The car is going to be such a monster, and it's, for me, it's, if cars like this finally get built, it's a process, something that I've had in my head for a very long time. So when I see a Corvette, a drift car, I always have these little files on my phone where I store like photos and things, or I have notes. I have like a huge amount of notes in my phone and on my laptop, like for a Corvette, do this, do that, and I add like pictures, like change this, or there's maybe something that I see on a Ferrari, like, hey, I want to use this and that specific thing on a Ferrari and put it on a Corvette if we ever build a Corvette. So it's like those cars are almost already born in my head, the same as my black E46, the V8 car. I've had that car in my head for 3-4 years before we started building it, and it was like a huge amount of notes and a huge amount of folders with photos or sketches that I make, or measurements that I make, or things. I'm like, hey, we've done this and that on a client car. This works for that reason. Let's change it into. Let's also apply it on my own car. And there's this huge amount of notes that I have. So I really like to think of all the little details on the cars. Really great to have Eric, who's an amazing mechanic, works really hard, has a lot of energy. Great guys. Richard, of course, is super eager to learn everything. It's a guy. He's just the kind of guy that you just like doing stuff for, because he really appreciates it. So super happy to be doing this. And like I said, the nice thing is that I'm going to be running, that I'm going to be part of a team that's going to be running against my friends. So it's so cool to be competing against guys that you know. And of course, there's a lot of crew members that I know as well. Of course, we're also going to be at the pro events on FD. Not all of them. I can't stretch to go to all of them, but for 100% the ones that are at the same time as Prospect, of course, but also some other ones. Super great, like rooting for Chelsea and Audi, of course. Very difficult for me. For me, it's like either way. For me, I always say like the best thing would be the finals between Audi and Chelsea. So that's really cool. So super excited for that, and I hope you guys are as well. If there's any questions, let me know, and have a fantastic weekend.
Don't forget to take a look at our website as well, einzel.nl. We ship worldwide, of course, Wisefab, field suspension, our own brand Einzel, gearboxes, quick change differentials, axles, all kinds of things. A lot of fabrication components, of course, air jacks, subframes for quick change, you name it. Drop us an email and we'll hook you up.